Okay, there we go. Hello, and welcome to Unifying Force. I'm Kat, David, and there's Gio. Uh, let's see. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, we made our Oscars predictions. And then last week, we had the Oscars, which were admittedly very predictable.
Yeah.
No real surprises this year, which made it feel longer of a show.
Yeah, is I watched chunks and pieces and parts of the show, and everybody in my household is just going like, "Why are you watching this?" And it's like, because we tried to watch some of the content as a family, and it yeah.
Yeah, it's I think a dying aspect of TV and society having award shows, but it looks like they're still trying to revive it by having the plan for 2028 to debut on YouTube and be available for everyone to watch around the world.
2029.
Is it 2029? Oh
Yeah.
God. Will that be the 101st Academy Awards or the 100th?
1998.
99 is
101st. That'd be the 101st.
101st. So the 100th will be the last one that's on ABC network television.
Yeah, I will be interested to see how it changes for YouTube. Is it's got to be like faster, clippier things that like the whole Conan's big mountaintop whatever that's got to go.
Yeah, the jokes take a while to finish.
That's something they never do. Is for shortening the show, they should always shorten the host's introduction. There's no reason the host should be given 20 minutes at the top. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and that weapons parody thing that I picked up on, even though I haven't seen the film Weapons, it grew boring after about 30 seconds, and yet he continued to run through the Best Picture nominees of all the films nominated for Best Picture, which I thought was pretty tiresome. Conan O'Brien's one of the best, comedy writers, comedians, stand-up performers, definitely one of the best late-night hosts ever. And to have him waste his time in a pre-recorded segment dressed up as
Aunt Gladys.
who became the best sporting actress, it was just a waste of time. And I would much rather have heard him talk sincerely about stuff, even off the cuff and improvised, because he's a really good improvisational comedian, which is hard to do, especially in that kind of scale. And an award show of that magnitude, it's the top tier creme de la creme of award shows, and yeah, it takes too long. But I have a hugely sinking feeling that YouTube's going to be even more long and even worse. And the reason why is because I've been reading about YouTube's changes under Alphabet and Google to even watching YouTube on TV. So now if you watch Android TV or Google TV, whatever the smart TV interface is called on your particular set, and it does vary between Sony and Panasonic and Hisense, and
Yeah.
They all have unskippable adverts. So
that's YouTube also has that on the desktop. You can't skip various ads either.
Yeah, and ad blockers are no longer working.
So already your commercial breaks are built in, and yeah, Sherry, you're right. The bits with the presenters is like, okay.
Those ones are never funny, and then sometimes they blow up in your face, like when they had the Bridesmaids bit, and it's like, you do realize that this bit is funnier than anything in the movie Bridesmaids, begging the question, why are you honoring the movie Bridesmaids?
I agree with that. Why is Bridesmaids considered some kind of cult classic landmark
awful
comedy?
films, trying too hard. It was kind of like that Ghostbusters reboot, where it's like you're trying way too hard to be
I was
funny.
gonna say
And it's
that's
just not.
exactly the Ghostbusters reboot felt like
Very
they were
similar
trying to
to
do
that.
the same thing again, and it was Paul Feig, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or Paul Feig, who did both. He wrote both and directed both, and you can tell. And I hope
That's
he
why I'm
isn't
so
giving.
surprised he made A Simple Favor, because that's a great movie.
I need to see that one.
The first one. Don't bother with the sequel.
Okay, I
But-
feel like people who do comedic films, they might hit and miss with their comedy, but they usually are quite good at understanding emotion and conveying a storyline with good characters
Yeah.
in a drama. And I feel like that overlaps to actors as well. Someone like Adam Sandler, I'm not the biggest fan of his comedy, but in Uncut Gem, he's amazing. And it happens quite a bit with the comedic actors. They seem to tap into something that
Yes,
really makes
Sherry, I agree with that bit too that she just wrote. She says the Grogu bit went on too long. It did, and it was
Yeah,
very forced. That didn't need to be in there.
Yeah, the acting of amazing actors and actresses in that bit. I mean, the lot. I thought that was reasonably well written. I don't know that it was delivered.
Yeah,
It was very forced having her say that line. I'm like, what? This isn't it.
but I liked seeing Kate Hudson interact with the Grogu puppet. That was quite cool. I think she's a good actress. I'd like to see her back in more projects. But speaking of things that went overly long, how long was that in memoriam section? I know we lost loads of people, but
A lot of people liked that this year. Not many people had bad things to say about it.
I didn't think it didn't mess with me that it went overly long, but the way it was broken up and who got longer bits and how they put the longer bits in, I thought that felt a little odd.
Yeah, and I was surprised they did one for like Catherine O'Hara, because she's mostly known for Canadian comedy and TV more than movies.
Well, Home Alone.
That's not a good movie. And she's not, and she's only in it for like a few minutes, but it's like, and then they did one for Diane Keaton, which I thought, there's a reason the actress who was reading off the Diane Keaton one only mentioned movies that she was in the 70s, because that's kind of Diane Keaton's career. And then the Robert Redford one didn't work because Barbara Streisand can't sing anymore. I'm sorry, it's just a fact. And in her microphone, the audio problems throughout the show were just awful.
That was terrible.
Oh, the sound
design was awful, and I could barely hear what she was saying, and the music was boots up too loud. And it's like, okay, you don't need to have somebody come out and say something about Redford. You can just have Redford be the last name on there. Like they had Robert Duvall show up innocuously, nobody says nothing or whatever. But I thought the Rob Reiner bit was really good. That one I'd say was probably warranted, because that was like a shock to so many people and is still pretty fresh. So that was really neat that they got all those other actors from his movies to show up for that bit. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it goes back to our tribute episode when we did our own kind of in memoriam stuff, because I think we're all huge fans of Robert Redford and Rob Reiner, and it was a bad kind of 2-3 months for Robs in Hollywood. But Billy Crystal is one of my favorite people in the kind of entertainment world, and having him be on stage to do it, he just felt very, very kind. He always seems to be so warm, even when he's talking about something serious, and it was very sincere, and you could tell, he was getting emotional, but he managed to keep it in check and not get choked up, even though, one of his best friends died in a horrible tragedy that was not predicted by anyone, with his wife and so on. And I just loved how they put out his directorial. They had like those columns with each image from some of his biggest films. And Billy Crystal mentioned what we talked about for an extended time, which is Rob Reiner probably has the best and most diverse run of films in Hollywood in terms of one director. The Princess Bride, This Is Spinal Tap, A Few Good Men. These films are so uniquely in their genre, and yet they're all huge. They're all bangers. They're all great films. And so his impact in a sociological and cultural way around the world through the medium of American film, I think, is one of the largest and most significant impacts from any director in Hollywood. And so I'm just really sad that we didn't get more films from him. And he had a tragic and really unseemly end to his life.
Sherry is commented.
You right?
She says, "Just wish we could have better seen the actors who came out for Rob Reiner. I had to look at a still picture later to see who was all there."
Yeah, they
that
didn't
was
really
true.
do a good zoom in, did they? Or a really nice.
The whole production of the Academy Awards, the staging and the way the camera didn't zoom or panned out was so bad. And one thing we have to mention is how many times they cut people off. I know it gets long and boring when someone pulls out a folded piece of paper and
Yeah, you need
starts
to cut those people off.
thanking. But what they did to the and I'm not a fan of this film, the K-pop Demon Hunters crew, when they went up for best song, and then the Korean guy is obviously speaking English as a second or third language. He pulled out his paper, they started playing the music, they turned the light off, and they pulled the mic away.
I want to know why certain ones, it seemed at least, certain groups got longer than others.
Because it's a known fact that there's certain awards nobody cares about. And because they're trying to speed up the show, and they tell people at the awards lunch and all the nominees, if you win, you have X amount of time for this category, so work it out and be ready. And a lot of them aren't, and they just kind of ramble, and it's like when you have multiple winners in the same category, you either need to appoint one person to talk or take like when people get up there and start talking about their family and you have like two other people with awards who aren't able to say anything. It's like you need to shut up and let the other person get up there and talk, but they don't do that. They just keep rambling and rambling. And so, we got to turn off the lights and pull the microphone down.
Yeah, but the way they did it to the Korean guy was so bad because he was clearly prepared to do a little speech, and
right. But the lead girl, she took way too long up there. That's the problem.
She did. She kind of hogged the limelight and the spotlight for a bit. But they should have brought the mic back. They did that for one of the earliest. I can't remember which film it was. The first time they cut someone off, and they took the mic. They played them off, took the mic away, and then they just stood their ground, and then they managed.
Now, the one segment that did a good job with, I thought, was the Sinners music presentation was filmed very well. That was really neat cinematography that they did for that, because that was like recreating that scene from the movie, and that was like the one thing they did a good job on stage.
I enjoyed that, but the having the people in Chinese dress threw me off, because I remember there being the Chinese grocers in the movie, but I didn't remember anyone in the Chinese grocers being a part of that musical number, that scene, and it's like, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, I think they're trying to make sure the Oscars are as international as possible, and it's part of the diversity drive, whatever one thinks about it. I have no problem with that. It's fine. It didn't detract.
And I didn't have a problem with it. It was just distracting.
It did seem a bit random because their clothing is so bright and vibrant, and it kind of catches the eye, and then you kind of only want to watch them dance. But in that sequence in the film, which is one of the best sequences in the film and one of the most memorable scenes in any kind of movie for a while, they do have East Asian people. I think there's a lady in a kimono, so kind of a geisha type person.
Okay. If they were in the
film,
and then I remove my comment and objection if they were in that scene in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know if they're the same attire and dress as what's in the film, but there is
for that matter. They got of their 16 nominations, they won 4. Music, which should have gone to One Battle After Another, because that was a much better score. It's like, Sinners is about music, but the One Battle score is a lot better.
I disagree.
They should have gone to them. They get best cinematography, which I liked because the cinematography in that movie was amazing. And that was one of the best bits of the night, where Ryan Coogler jumped up and he was more excited for his DP than she was. And he sprinted all the way to the back of the theater to get her kid to bring him up so he could hear the speech.
That was great.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
They also won original screenplay. And then, of course, the one that had all the momentum was Michael B. Jordan for lead actor, which was like the best. Like, everybody wanted that, and we got it.
Yeah, he deserved that so much. And I think, all right, in my opinion, I know Ludwig Göransson's already won, I think, 2 Academy Awards for scores.
He's won 3 now.
Is his 3rd one, and he's what, 37? But he's incredible, and the score in Sinners is integral to the film, and it's exceptional, and it's memorable, and the songs are memorable. And when I heard the songs in Sinners, they've stayed in my head forever.
The
Whereas
songs aren't considered really as part of the music. That's like
Yeah,
best
it's
song.
not the
It's a
score.
category.
That's why there's musical score
but he's
category and a
created.
song category.
This is the thing. I know they're separate awards for sure, and they should be. But the original score and the original songs within the score, the way Ludwig has blended them together is so significant, and the genre of music is kept consistent across the songs and across the original OST. And I think that shows that a composer is really at the top of their game. One Battle After Another has an incredible soundtrack, really good music, very
That carries the whole
memorable,
movie.
goes really well with the character stuff, and complements the action well, and makes it feel like it's a satirical comedy and commentary on society right now. But Sinners is incredible in terms of
Yeah,
music.
I'm just saying that the score carries One Battle more than the score carries Sinners.
Yeah. Well,
That's because
Sherry's
Sinners
out
is
here
a
saying
that.
that there's
Well, I'd say
commentary out there that
because
explains
Sinners is
the music segment.
Yeah,
I think that's
and then
because. Oh wait, there's a commentary out there that explains the significance of the parts of the Sinners music
I will have
segment.
to look that up. I would like to see and understand that.
One video I have to share with you guys, and maybe we could put it in the YouTube, about more info, little bit underneath our video when this stays up on YouTube, is the DOP after she gave her speech. I think she then did an interview with Variety or Vanity Fair, and she breaks down her cinematography choices and the original starting of the film. After the prologue, the first scene of the actual film, once they tell you the story of music and its power, would have actually been when Remnick lands and is burning, and he's running towards the Ku Klux Klan couple. That was the original start of the film, and that's how Ryan wrote it initially. And then she tells you the reason why it looks like he's landing is because it's meant to be implied that he has some superhuman element. If he's a vampire, maybe he's landing.
we see him fly later in the movie too.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so discreet at the beginning. It's open to interpretation, and it's great. And the character agency is immediately put there. You know his kind of agenda because he's zeroing in on making it look like the Choctaw are chasing him, and he's a defenseless, innocent person, and he's being, pursued for that reason. So he tries to connect, in an empathetic way to the couple in the cabin. And she talks about how they basically shot that at sunset and sunrise, and they got lucky with the weather. But every time there's like a wide shot done in IMAX style, she even talks about the choice of film they use, as well as the angle and the selection of edits, and then how she works with CG artists as well. And it's just incredible insight. So I'll find that video, and it's definitely worth watching. I think it's between like 5 and 10 minutes, and she's such a good narrator of her work and of how cinematography is. So you don't need to know anything technical, and she kind of just gives it to you in a very absorbable and absorbing, interesting way. And I'm so glad she got it, because also it's not that these things matter either really in the grand scheme of things, but they do as well. And the fact that she's the first woman is kind of crazy, but also great to see. And then the fact that
that was a huge surprise to me, knowing that had never happened to this point. That was
apparently DOPs are even more male dominated than any other crew role that's significant for film, because there are loads of great female directors, and they've been nominated for things nowadays, which is great. Like Catherine Bigelow with, I think, The Hurt Locker was her first nomination as director. But to have Autumn Arkapow win, and then I really liked her speech where she was basically saying that I've only got this far by standing on the shoulders of other women.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So if you could all rise, that was so cool. It felt sincere. I didn't feel like forced or anything, and I felt as if she was talking from the heart. And then the fact that Ryan went to grab her kid was just a very cute moment too. And I think it just sounds like everyone who made Sinners in front of screen and behind the camera had a great time and really got along well. And that's what you want. I guess the best projects come around when everyone's, friends with each other as well.
And then
I hope there's more films like that in the future.
And then on the bigger front, we have One Battle winning 6 of the 13 it was nominated for. Best casting, which should have gone to Sinners.
Exactly.
Best editing, which should have gone to Marty Supreme. It did win, however, Best Supporting Actor, which everybody knew it was going to win. That was a foregone conclusion. And I thought it was really funny when Kieran Culkin came out and says, "Yeah, Sean Penn couldn't be here. Maybe he just didn't want to be here." So that was funny.
Yeah, that was.
And that sort of puts to bed the rumor that, if the Academy doesn't like you, they're not going to award you, because the Academy doesn't like him, and he doesn't really like the Academy, but they gave it to him anyway because they thought he was the best one of the bunch. Even though it would have been great to see Delroy Lindo win.
Yeah, I wanted
really
Delroy.
But I have to be honest that Delroy was not as good as Sean Penn was in that movie. But
I think
again, Delroy was playing Delroy, and he's
I think Delroy was his own self, which in a way can take you out of a role. You know, when you see like a famous face in a film, but they're not the main cast, they're a supporting actor. It does kind of sometimes just take you out because it's like, oh my God, there's Bruce Willis. What's he doing here? Or whatever. And it can be quite distracting. I thought Delroy Lindo fitted the story well and fitted the character well.
He does.
But he wasn't acting very differently to how he is, whereas obviously Sean Penn is not like that.
And the thing also with Delroy, the one scene everybody talks about with him is when he's in the cart and he's telling that story. And that's such a great scene. And the rest of the time, he's kind of just Delroy. But But
you know
that was fun. And then
nominations are they? Sorry, well, I have a question. You know like for example, the Emmys. In the Emmys, they nominate a single episode, and they often preview a singular scene from that episode to have it as for your consideration.
Yeah.
Is it like that for these roles as well? For example, Best Actor.
No, I think what happens is the editors will choose a particular scene from a movie that they know. Like, you notice more often than not, the one that wins gets the best clip, whereas the ones who don't, and which means that the editors, they'll never admit it, that the editors must be talking with the people at Price Waterhouse about who's actually going to win to know that, because it seems too much of a coincidence that they're always that the person who ends up winning or the category that wins always has the best clip, regardless of what the category is.
Definitely true, yeah.
And I am very happy that after turning in a bajillion Best Picture worthy movies, that Paul Thomas Anderson finally got his flowers with adapted screenplay, directing, and producing for Best Picture. And I liked when he got up there and gave his first speech, because he kept pawing the award like this, and you could tell he was having a hard time holding it. And towards the end of his speech, his voice started trembling a bit, because you could tell it meant a lot to him. And those are the speeches I like, where they're getting up and bawling like a maniac, but like where you could like when Guillermo del Toro won his Best Director for Shape of Water. That was a great speech. And so I was happy that Paul finally won, even though I think he's made better movies. And so that was
Here's something that so the UK coverage was on ITV1, which is channel 3 of the original 5 terrestrial channels, and they had a late night chat host, Jonathan Ross, who's also a film reviewer, and his wife is a screenplay writer, Jane Goldman. She's written lots of scripts in Hollywood for like mainstream films, and he had 3 panelists. One of them was like a content creator, which was cringe. That guy was irritating as hell. One was an actor who was in F1, and one was another presenter host who reviews films as well. And so they were, every time you guys went to a massively long advert every 5 minutes, we had maybe 2 minutes of them talking about, what just won, and then what's coming up next, and what are your predictions. And it was interesting because it was almost like a watch party live with some people on TV. And that's what's very popular streaming. I'm sure people on Twitch and YouTube were live streaming, and TikTok might have been live streaming their own commentary on top of the Oscars as things were won. And I think that with Sinners and One Battle After Another, their conclusion at the end was One Battle After Another is an incredible film, amazingly well made, great production values, great adaptation, directed and produced so well, and PTA really deserved it. And they all wanted PTA to win Best Director, but they were kind of split on whether they wanted Sinners or One Battle to win Best Picture overall.
See, I don't feel that race was as tight as a lot of the media wants to make it out to be, because One Battle won virtually the only Guild Awards that One Battle lost was the Screen Actors Guild Awards. It steamrolled everything else, even the BAFTAs. And so I'm wondering that, the media was hyping up that it's a big showdown, but like, was it really? Because it seemed like, now I do know for a fact from people I know in the industry that the voting was extremely close between Michael B. Jordan and Timothée Chalamet for Best Actor. That was a razor Well, Chalamet was really great in that movie, but
I haven't seen the film. He looks
Oh,
like he's done a great performance, but I
I
think
think
Michael
he
B. Jordan.
probably it was very, very good, and it was very close. But
I
because
think
again, it
Michael B.
goes back to even if the Academy doesn't like you, they're going to give it to you if they think you did a good job. But
Do you
I
think the
just feel
Academy
that
doesn't like Timothy Chalamet?
huh?
Do you think the Academy doesn't like Timothy Chalamet?
No, I just think at this particular year it got very, very close, and because the actors comprise the largest guild of the voting body, and they gave it to Michael B. Jordan a couple weeks ago for acting, that I think that's what gave him the extra edge over the finish line.
Yeah.
And I
I'll
love
tell you
that he
something.
went to In-N-Out afterwards. That was awesome. He went to In-N-Out and took a bunch of pictures of sitting there eating his burger, getting swarmed by fans and photographers.
Oh yeah, I didn't realize he did that. That's cool.
Oh yeah,
I love
that's
I really
the
like
thing is those that kind of don't go to the big Hollywood parties and just go
Yeah.
get a
The only
photo.
party you have to go to as a winner is the governor's ball because that's where they engrave your award.
Yeah.
But that was fun. And then
Wait, can I just say
Sinners got 16 nominations because it excelled in a lot of other categories, but I don't think the Best Picture race was as tight as everybody was trying to make it out to be. Because
I think
the Academy can get very predictable, and when it comes down to movies that are as timely as One Battle is, which is ironic because he wrote this back in like 2018, and the reason he didn't make it before Licorice Pizza was he couldn't find an actress to play Willa to his liking, so he did Licorice Pizza first, and then he came back and did this, and then what do you know? It happens to be even more relevant than anybody had any belief it was ever going to be. Because the book is felt much more absurdist because it was written in 1990. But the fact that these things are actually happening now just seems insane. And so the Academy always goes in for that shit. Not that it was a bad movie, but like again, I don't think it should have got editing because even in the final car chase, I was like, okay, you're stretching the tension too long. It's not working anymore. Whereas I thought like with Marty Supreme, the editing was much better because it's so episodic and keeps you on your feet for 2.5 hours. But anyway, that was the Oscars.
It was the Oscars.
Well, hold on.
I thought it was really. Oh, the one bit I thought was really funny was that Kumail Nanjiani got up there and he announced a tie for live action short. And after the first people got up and accepted, he says, "I think it's really funny that live action short's going to be the longest award to give out for the night." Which was
that was one of the best off the cuff moments. But
that was great.
I do want to say Michael B. Jordan. Obviously one of the things that we'll always revisit and will get endlessly recycled are any kind of drama, and the big drama behind the Oscars. I noticed this because I was looking extensively into who was covering the Oscars preview and build up and hype to research our episode, and just for my own interest. And I saw that some outlets which absolutely love Michael B. Jordan, which is great because I love him. I think he's one of the best people. They were showing Michael B. Jordan's speech from the Screen Actor Guild Awards and everything. And then when Timothy Chalamet's comments about, like we mentioned it last time, nobody cares, nobody wants to see, like Broadway and musicals and theater, that like kind of anti-Timothy Chalamet campaign was propagated and went viral multiple times, even like a week or two after he'd said the words. And it was by those same outlets that were saying, Sinners is the best thing ever and stuff. And
I also know the voting closed before the Chalamet comments exploded on the internet because they didn't really.
Which is what you said, which is what you mentioned last time. But
I think it was more his career retrospective thing, which is really cringy. It's like, dude, you're 30, calm down.
Yeah, and
it's like, like he even put Interstellar as one of them. It's like, dude, anybody could have played your role in Interstellar, and you're like, gimme. It's like,
yeah. There's one person in the cantina actually who mentioned that she feels Timothy Chalamet's become even more kind of detached from reality and kind of in his own world of egotism since he's been with one of the Jenners, because obviously their entire world is built on superficiality and creating drama. So that's why I think he embraced the drama and he wanted to have his hot takes in that Matthew McConaughey town hall for CNN. He wanted to give his hot takes because he knew that he could go viral.
Did you actually watch it though? Because I watched it and the comments were not as disparaging as the internet made him out to be. He kind of laughed when he said it. He realized he put his foot in his mouth and he's like, oh shit, I took shots for no reason. He started laughing it off and was like a quasi apology. So it's like, it wasn't a big deal, but people get.
It wasn't. It was just drama online, and it was easy to flip people out of context, which is the whole issue with social media now. It happens far too much, and then people don't.
I did think it was funny that when Amy Madigan won for weapons, she got up there and started cackling like Aunt Gladys. I thought that was really funny. It's like people thought, oh, I was watching it with a watch along, and people were like, oh, she's really happy that she won. I'm like, no, she's doing an Aunt Gladys bit.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the better. Like,
did we highlight Sherry's last comment about Maya Rudolph?
Sherry, yes. Yes,
PTA.
Paul Thomas Anderson and Maya Rudolph. I'm not sure if they're actually married, but they have been together for a very long time, and they have kids together and everything. And she cameos in some of his movies. But yeah. And yes, Sherry, you're right. Sean Penn was on a flight to Ukraine to meet President Zelensky, which I don't know what he's going to do with President Zelensky. It's like, calm down, you're an actor. But he gave one of his last Oscars that he won to Zelensky, which is kind of odd. This is like the Oscars for film stuff. Because that's what pissed him off about the Academy. He wanted to let Zelensky give a speech at the 2022 Oscars, which was a few weeks after the invasion started. And the Academy understandably said no, because this is about movies. What is this about? And Sean Penn was really butthurt about it. And that's when he started saying all these disparaging remarks about the Academy. And so he gave one of his awards to Zelensky, which is just really weird because it's like, that doesn't really make any sense. It's like, yeah, you want to applaud the guy for leading the country against Russia, but you're giving him an Oscar. Like, what the hell is that? And he'll probably do the same with the new one.
No, yeah, to me, that's as weird as who was that lady politician leader? Was it the one from Venezuela? The opponent to Nicolas Maduro, who got a Peace Prize, I think, and then she went to the White House and she was like, "Oh, Donald, have my Nobel Peace Prize." And I was like, "What are you doing? You can't." Well, it's not like
his ass is what she's doing.
It's not swag. You can't like swap it with somebody.
Yeah,
what's going on?
Anyway, that was
when actual life events mirror the movies.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was
the other way around.
I do think Sean Penn's role was great, but it was written so well, and I don't think Sean Penn. I liked Benicio del Toro more in that film.
Oh, everybody does.
His character's a lot nicer, but I wanted to see because they were both nominated, right, for the same.
Yeah, Delroy, Sean, and Benicio and Stellan.
Yeah.
That was Stellan Skarsgård's first year ever
nominated for that one.
That's what kind of sucks. It's like the people who show up to the show, you could tell it would mean something to them, but the one guy who's going to win doesn't even give a shit. It's like, come on. Anyway, we've spent a lot of time on this, so time to move on to
what we're actually here to talk about today, but we were closing out this is on the network. We are in the heart of March Maulness, or actually we're kind of winding down with March Maulness, but we're getting so much ready for Maul Shadow Lord. I mean, it is coming. We got another not a teaser, we got like an actual trailer and stuff this week. It just continues to the animation. They keep pushing the animation forward, right? Yeah,
and it looks incredible. I think the animation has never looked better. I know it's the latest one, so it should be the best looking one, but I feel like they've taken the incredible real-time lighting and shadow usage that was in the Bad Batch and used so well, and they've got this here in Maul. And Darth Maul's never looked better moving or being stationary in still images than he has in these trailers. And I think the whole time Dave Filoni's had this up his sleeve as a little like ace in the hole. Nice mug, cat.
Yes.
It looks like it's kind of embossed, kind of 3D textured, right?
It is. It is embossed, and you can feel all the ridges. Cool. You can see it.
Where did you get that from? Is that from Galaxy's Edge?
Yes, I got this from Doc Ondar's at Galaxy's Edge.
Need to go get that. And I think that Dave Filoni has always had his plan to do a specific Darth Maul show. And that's why we haven't seen him wield the double-edged lightsaber as much. Watching Clone Wars, right? He has a single red blade. And then in the initial Mandalorian Civil War, where he sides with Death Watch, he uses the dark saber, and then he uses the dark saber to obviously defeat Pre Vizsla, and then in his duel with Palpatine, combined with Savage has the double-edged lightsaber, and Maul has the red lightsaber, and then he gets the dark saber and has that. You know what I really don't like? Star Wars seems to be afraid to have an extended duel with somebody holding two lightsabers at the same time. The only person who manages to do that successfully on screen is Ahsoka.
Yeah,
but like Anakin had that moment for 10 seconds against Count Dooku in Attack of the Clones, which was great. but it was in the trailer, so I was expecting it to be more than 10 seconds in the film from the trailer.
Well, I think that whole sequence was a lot longer. There's a whole other behind the scenes of that, but it never made the
Oh,
editing.
yeah, you're right. The whole blue screen, green screen stuff gets circulated on like Instagram and YouTube, and there was an extended scene with the two blades, and in my head canon, what I wanted for Revenge of the Sith before the film came out in 2005, 19th of May, I wanted Anakin to have. I wanted Palpatine to have two blades because I thought at that stage it would show Palpatine's like a scarily good duelist.
Yeah.
And it would help in that scene where he very slowly and painfully kills the Jedi Council members. And he looks like he's moving in slow motion, and it's really sloppily
He's
directed.
always did that with the very subtle. I mean, he's got the teeny tiniest, like Yoda-sized little lightsaber hilt, and it's just
in his wrist, yeah. And in the novel, actually, Revenge of the Sith, he has a lightsaber blade hidden in the desk, and he actually has an audio recording going on. Like, he has like a reel-to-reel machine in his desk that's recording the conversation between Mace Windu and him. And he's even more melodramatic. He's like, "Oh no, it's treason! What are you doing, Jedi?" And then he winks at them, as described by Matthew Stover in Revenge of the Sith, the novel. And then he gets his blade out and he slices through the recording device so it ends just before he goes and roars and attacks them as like a Sith master. But yeah, it seems like Ahsoka's the only one who does two blades, and we had the incredible Siege of Mandalore, which was that the most recent watch along, the Siege of Mandalore, I believe.
We were doing the watch along last night was season 7.
Yeah, and that's where Darth Maul, I think, stepped up even higher in my esteem to be one of the best characters written in Star Wars, because the way he became the Phantom Apprentice from being the Phantom Menace with Sidious in the background, for 10, 12 years beforehand, was just incredible. And the fact that the parallel happened with Ahsoka, and they're kind of battling for the soul of the galaxy, and they both want the Sith to die, but for very different reasons, is just incredible. And I hope we get more of that in Maul Shadow Lord. But please, guys, tell me your first impressions of Maul Shadow Lord.
Well, first impressions is, let's talk about, like, because we're building up to Maul Shadow Lords. Let's go first impressions of the character, which is, we all went absolutely crazy when we saw this, right? Yeah. This is the trailer. And we're gonna hit a few things in this that we're gonna try and hit a few things that they haven't hit in different places on the network. And a lot of that is, who's behind Maul, who's been there and helped, and in the Phantom Menace is, there's more than one person responsible for this. This is the first time we see the character, so you got to kind of go down that rabbit hole and say, where did he come from? Who came up with this idea? Who brought this into being? And this is one of those characters that's still it's George Lucas, right? Is Lucas told his concept designers allegedly that he just wanted to see, I think, Nightmare itself is. I think that's the quote in the designer, or the design that was described. And then I think what was it, Ian McCaig? Is that how you say it?
Yes, Ian McCaig.
Ian McCaig is he does the concept art for this, and I think it looks far more Utapawan. I think.
Yeah, it did. And then the horns were originally each of the horns went like really high, and it looked a little weird, and so they shaved those down. And you're right, the clothing was very Utapawan, with the way that the risers come up all the way up on the side with the big drapery and all that. And then George is like, no, just give him the traditional, kind of like instead of Jedi robes, the same type of robes, but just jet black because he's Sith.
Yeah.
And plus there was a practicality for that because they needed to make sure that whoever they cast was going to be able to actually do all the stunts.
And allegedly that may be why, when we see Utapawans on screen that have to actually fight in the Acolyte, is it's a much more truncated head space than the Utapawans that just like appear and are just stand there. But Yeah, so Ian McKay comes up with this concept art, and then he goes through the iterations, and Paul England is the makeup artist that puts all of this together, and has to like make it happen. So it's a real kind of major team up, and then you talk about Nick Gillard.
Yes, Nick Gillard.
Nick Gillard.
He's been a stuntman associated with Lucasfilm Productions going back to Indiana Jones days. He actually had a cameo in The Last Crusade as the guy in the tank driver who gets hit in the back of the head when the Indy hits the tanker, and that was funny. But he choreographed the entire thing, and his directive from Lucas was basically cast the person who's better than you. And so that's what he did. And he says that, yeah, Ray would show up like right at dawn and be the last person to leave every day, like these 16-hour days, because George's thinking was that I want the audiences have gotten savvy enough that they know when we swap out for stunt guys, and he didn't want to do that. He wanted to have a lot of close-ups. So he figured if I cast a stunt guy to play this role, or a martial artist rather, then that'll motivate the actors to do more of the work themselves. And that worked and paid off in spades. And you know, it helps that this movie gets, you know, just like you mentioned, like absolutely iconic images like this one.
Oh yeah.
This I got at Chicago 2019. That was a really great fan encounter too. I was in a wheelchair at the time, and for some reason his table was so high I couldn't get around. So he actually came around and let me get a free selfie and all that and talk. So that was pretty fun. And of course I made sure to get one with I got him and the Emperor himself right here. Also at Chicago 2019.
Nice.
That was pretty cool.
Well, I've got this one right here. That Ray Park autograph.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
That's cool.
Yeah, is Skip and I went to a comic book shop, not quite halfway between the two of us, but and Ray was appearing just like as a Saturday morning kind of thing. It was lined up around the building, everybody, because you know, Ray has had some very public issues, right? But one thing that you cannot say is that when you meet Ray Park in person, he is very generous with his time. Is he spends a lot of time with each and every person. He when he shows up, and that's a very big thing. And I mean, like you were saying, is he was what embodied Darth Maul, and not coincidentally managed to translate Snake Eyes to the screen, that sort of martial arts, because, you know, G.I. Joe fanboys, we'd been expecting the best, you know, ninja person ever when that went to the big screen. And he did not disappoint, even though a lot of parts of that movie did.
Hey, DJ Rock.
Oh, but yeah,
yes.
is that I don't think there's anybody else that could have really done that, having seen Ray, you know. He was hired as a stuntman, and then he was just putting so much into it, as they're just like, nope, that's the dude, that's gonna be our Maul.
And I thought it was really funny that, you know, when they finished filming the movie, you know, George sees all the work that's gone into it, and the only direction he gave when he hired Peter Serafinowicz to voice the character was, just make him sound kind of evil. It's like, well, what do you mean, George? We want it to be a deep voice. We want it to be loud. Just make him sound kind of evil, kind of. I love Peter's voice as Maul. It's my favorite voice as Maul.
Which brings us to another person, Peter Serafinowicz.
Yeah, and he just and it's basically just his voice with a very slight undertone to it, but it worked. It's like, that's great. And unfortunately, they kind of railroaded him on Solo, but he came back and voiced that. It was nice enough to do that for them. But yeah, that's what brought those. So yeah, you got the stunt guy Nick Gillard and the other stunt team, who I'm sure we didn't really get their names, but obviously he was working with stunt guys a lot while Ewan and Liam were off filming their other scenes for the movie.
Right.
And admittedly, I know it was really disappointing for a lot of fans that character didn't really get to do much in that movie because the marketing just went crazy with that. And he's mostly just the loyal samurai assassin. But I mean, it's still, in hindsight, given what the Duel of the Fates represents, it's still a significant sequence in impactful for the whole saga.
Well, and because the movie did so well, and because people did absolutely lose their minds, double-bladed lightsaber, that was ta-da! That was the sequence of the trailer. That's what ultimately brought Maul back.
Do either of you have sorry if you've shown this already, any of the Darth Maul legacy lightsabers? The hilts or?
I don't, because the Disney legacy ones, they make you buy two of them, two identical halves in two separate boxes, which I thought was really ridiculous.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have been a day one buy for me. But no, I don't have them.
Yeah. Is there a Black Series one?
There is, I think, and I think that one's a solid. But I'm not sure if that's around anymore.
Well, so Disney has a lot, because Disney has the short piece that you have to have two of them and the connector to make the double blade. There's a longer hilted single of that kind of style, and there is the later Maul comes back after spider legs and the whatnot, that has the almost not a cross guard, but a singular hand guard style on the side with kind of the exposed kyber, I believe. So I think
like the curved, with the curved side hilt. That's more witchy, I guess.
Yeah, he gets that once the Mother Talzin revives him and takes away his psychosis.
And speaking of Mother Talzin, my favorite Maul arc is probably the first Mandalore arc when he kills Duchess Satine. Spoilers. That was a really great arc.
I started watching that just as further research and to remind myself. I haven't actually watched that sequence of 3 episodes in a row since I first saw it. Can you believe it? So when it was on TV, 1 episode a week at Cartoon Network, and I was really impressed at how well it's directed. The summary at the beginning of the episode, which is called Eminence, middle of season 5, I think episode 16, 17, 18. They recently did it on the Clone Wars Revisited, I believe, with Ashley and Mark and Skip on the Monday. And that 3-episode arc, Kat, that you're alluding to, which is the initial kind of Mandalorian civil war that goes on involving Duchess Satine and the pacifism of the new Mandalorians, and then the antagonism and militarism and violence of the Death Watch, and who consider themselves the old and true Mandalorians, is really interesting. The dialogue's also great. You don't need to know anything about Mandalorians to enjoy that episode as a singular experience or as a 3-episode kind of film. And the performances of Sam Witwer, but also of Katie Sackhoff, of Jon Favreau, all really great.
Anna Graves.
Really good stuff. Also, I will shout out this. This is the novelization of The Phantom Menace. And again, as with all film to book adaptations, which are a lot rarer than book to film adaptations, the fact that you can get inside the psyche and the mindset of multiple characters in different scenes is so invaluable for enhancing your experience and enriching the story. And it's written by Terry Brooks, who, in my opinion, is one of the greatest fantasy writers of all time. I really love his The Sword of Shannara and his Shannara series, and all the trilogies that came after that. And he just writes in a very simple, kind of beautiful prose. Doesn't overdo it. He doesn't have the 10 paragraph descriptions of a tree in Mirkwood that J.R.R. Tolkien's famous for doing, which is also.
He doesn't take any sidesteps into languages. I mean, which would be great for a history book. I would love to read a Tolkien history book, but maybe not now.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta give yourself at least 150 pages on the history of Elvish. Come on, and why it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's before you introduce
your story.
Now, Star Wars has its own official alphabet with the Arabic.
Arabic.
Star Wars doesn't have its own language though, right? Like a real one. Like Klingon and Quenya are real languages from Star Trek and Lord of the Rings.
So
Yeah,
I think it has become a little bit more of that. I think that one of the things created for Book of Boba Fett was the Tuscan language, the Tuscan what's the word that it's the Tuscan sign language,
right?
Yeah.
I believe
it's like a variation on ASL, isn't it?
Yes, because it was done by, I believe it was done by the same person who did. There was an ASL movie that came out that I'm blanking on the name of.
Coda.
It came out around the same time.
Coda.
Yeah, Coda.
Troy Kotsur was in that too.
So yes, that was that, and Huttese is I think a pretty fully fleshed language.
So I mean one that like they actually have it defined and you can actually learn how to speak it. I meant.
Well, I mean, when we had the guys do Major Tom in Huttese Youngie Wim, there's enough of it. There's enough of it that you could construct and reconstruct that song from it. So whether it's a fully fledged language that you can learn it and speak it like you can, I mean, you can take classes in Klingon at a number of universities. You can read Shakespeare as it was meant to be in the original Klingon, but
that's what
they
a
actually
dream.
published the original trilogy rewritten as Shakespearean plays with the proper Shakespearean language and everything. It's really cool.
They have the whole saga, the original 6, episode 1 to 6. I have 4 of them. I need to complete my collection. It's so fun though. It's really, really fun.
But I think there are Star Wars languages that are there, but no, everybody speaks essentially Galactic Basic, which is English, but written in Arabic.
Yeah. I will just say one thing more on the Phantom Menace. The novel, where do you think the novel begins? Because it doesn't begin with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan on the ship.
It's been a long time since I read it, so I can't remember.
Where would that begin?
I'm not testing you. I want you to imagine, where do you think it starts?
I don't.
Do they start on Naboo with the siege?
I really wish that would have made sense to me given the film. No, the first word in the saga is my least favorite planet, Tatooine. Yeah.
And what's the scene?
So you know what? They give a little brief history of Anakin and what's going on with his life before they delve into anything else.
Yeah, they do. That's really well perceived. Tatooine, the sun's burned down out of a cloudless blue sky, washing the vast desert wastes of the planet in a brilliant white light. And you know what? I feel Dave Filoni loves this novel because there's that circularity of Darth Maul, as we see later in Twin Suns. So it talks about the pod racing and other aspects of Tatooine culture. And then the third paragraph starts with Anakin Skywalker leaned into the curve of the raceway that took him past the stone arch in Beggar's Canyon for the first lap of his run. So immediately you have Anakin being this incredible, talented pod racer from the first page. So that's really interesting.
That's interesting. Well, we're okay down that rabbit hole and back to Maul, where we were. But is like so Maul, we've already talked about the people, the creators, the back. It came from George, and but you've got Peter Serafinowicz and Ray Park, but then Sam Witwer. Sam has been like the longest torch carrier, I guess. Though Ray, you could argue Ray because he came back to do the mocap for those very important fights in season 7.
Has it been confirmed if he does any for more Shadow Lord or no?
No.
I would not.
I don't think so. No. Nah.
Now it has been said, and I think confirmed because I think it was said by Sam, that they're mocapping Sam for some of the facial features and the movement.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
They did that for the Son, and they did that for him in The Force Unleashed. Even though obviously it was his full human likeness as Galen Marek, Starkiller, the secret apprentice to Darth Vader. But he's proven he could do the whole performance in all aspects.
So they are doing that for Shadow Lord. Where the action sequences will come in, maybe we'll hear that one later.
Yeah, I think they'll use.
Now going down here is, we'll see. I guess that they have to stick to this because the Wikipedia says that this is canon now. We were arguing this on the watch along 2 weeks ago, is whether, you know, he's Dathomirian, obviously, but was he Maul, a literal son of Mother Talzin, or, you know, is that just the kind of thing? And canon here on the Wikipedia says yes, he and Savage were literal brothers and literal sons of Mother Talzin.
Is that in the under the Disney canon section?
That is under the highlighted canon section.
I would still push back on that, and I'd also want to check references within Disney officially canon graphic novels and ancillary material, because I don't think it's meant to be that basic. I think it's meant to be more of like an adoptive thing. There is a scene that I found, and I wanted to bring it up, and I totally forgot. It's come out of one of the graphic novels, and I don't know if it's a graphic novel from the Dark Horse days before Disney bought everything, or from the Marvel, re-releases and new material under Disney from 2014 onwards. But it basically, the panel in the corner, the narration says, Darth Sidious offered Mother Talzin a place alongside him to rule the galaxy when the Sith ascend and have their great grand plan for revenge against the Jedi and the galaxy. However, she was one of many people who was betrayed shamelessly by Sidious, because he took one of the sons from the Dathomirian male clan, promising to make him the apprentice who would then become a master and rule the galaxy, and then said to Mother Talzin, "You can rule at my side, along with your one of your people," and then deceived her and lied to her and betrayed her and abandoned her.
Some of that may come from the creation of Maul, in that we were talking about earlier that the concept art looked far more Utapauan, and actually the original concept art for Darth Maul was female. That character was a female. It looked more like, and probably did evolve into Mother Talzin.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that Mother Talzin also was considered a look for the Night Sisters before they realized her look is kind of too emphatic and it should be a central character. But yeah, it's the whole conceptualization of Darth Maul that you guys are talking about is really interesting. And do we know if there are any specific artists that are credited with his final look?
Well, we talked about that while you were like taking a little bit of a break. It's Ian McCaig, the concept artist there, would be a large part of that, with the description from Lucas himself. And you've got to give something to Paul Englund, I believe, the makeup artist.
For sure. Do we know if Doug Chang, when he was helping with the pre-visualization of the entire prequel trilogy, did he do more ships and sets and like overworlds?
Yeah, he kind of did worlds and ships and things like that, as opposed to and certain aliens, but major characters were kind of done by some other guys.
Okay. There's can I shout out one book?
Of course. We shout out all the books. That's the kind of thing we're in here.
Yeah, there are only 3 proper novels that go into Darth Maul. There's The Phantom Menace. However, beforehand, there's this one and that one. I'll briefly talk about this one. This is Darth Maul Shadowhunter, written by Michael Reeves, who's a very prolific sci-fi writer from the US. He won an Emmy Award for which animated series in the 90s? do you
Wait,
think?
say that again.
Michael Reeves won an Emmy for outstanding writing in an animated series from the 1990s.
Oh God, I don't know what that would be for animated.
What's the greatest animated series, Dave?
The greatest animated series of the 1990s?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Transformers?
No. Think of
Uh,
more superhero.
We're on a clock today, so yeah, give us the answer.
Batman, the animated series.
oh,
Okay.
Batman. See, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
so much more sense. Yeah.
And then he also was hired by Spielberg at DreamWorks to write scripts. So by the way, this book is so well written. I read it in about 3 days, and I was at school at the time. It was published in 2001 initially, so it's after The Phantom Menace, but it gives you more insight into the Sith. I'll read the blurb very quickly. For the infamous power-hungry Sith, beholden to the dark side, the time has come to rise again. Darth Maul, merciless apprentice of evil and one of the legendary Sith. Darth Maul, champion of the nefarious Sith Lord, Darth Sidious. Darth Maul, a legend sprung to life from the nightmares of history, about to be unleashed. After years of waiting in the shadows, Darth Sidious is taking the first step in his grand plan to bring the Republic to its knees. Meanwhile, a young Jedi Padawan by the name of Darsha Asant stands on the verge of ascension to Jedi knighthood. A single mission will be her test, but a greater test awaits her. This is a fantastic book. And you go inside the head of Darsha and another Jedi called Pavan. And I thought it was really cool because those names are of South Asian descent, which you didn't see. There were no kind of like brown Jedi in The Phantom Menace, even though there were like all these other aliens. And obviously you had Mace Windu, as an incredible presence in the Jedi Council. But it was just a breakthrough for me to hear names that are South Asian in Star Wars, because Star Wars has all the funkiest names ever. So there's no reason why, you can have names from the New Testament like Luke, as well as names of George Lucas's friends like Anakin, and then you can have other names from around the world. So this was really cool, and you're inside Darth Maul's head for about 1/3 of the novel, which might not sound like much, but they still want to keep Darth Maul with an air of mystery and mystique. And again,
what's the timeline of this one again? This is
this is one of Darth Sidious's secret missions, and it's on Coruscant for the most part, and it's I think the year before the Phantom Menace. And the really great thing about this novel is it also has what was an ebook novella called Darth Maul Saboteur, which was only available, I think, from StarWars.com, but it's printed here, and it's one of Darth Maul's first ever missions for Darth Sidious as an apprentice. And here's something that's incredible that links directly to the Clone Wars and to Darth Maul and Shadow Lord. Sidious says, this is the last thing Sidious says to Maul in the ebook. I see. Temper your enthusiasm, my young apprentice. Soon I will have another task for you to discharge. Maul waited. Familiarize yourself with the workings of the criminal organization known as Black Sun. And while you're doing that, return to your warrior training. Your lightsaber may very well come in handy for what I require next.
Nice.
So that's a must-read if you want to delve into Darth Maul from the psychological and character perspective. And then here is a reprint in Legends. And I haven't seen Darth Maul Shadowhunter reprinted yet, but they're doing a good job of taking some great Legends novels and giving them new artwork. They've done that with, I think we mentioned it, the Heir to the Empire trilogy. It looks amazing in the Legends reprints. But this one is basically... if you guys remember Asajj Ventress's little gladiatorial combat arc in the Clone Wars micro series, this is Darth Maul doing that. It's an action-packed grind that spins one chapter entertainingly after another, keeping readers guessing what will happen next and who will live and who will die. And this is basically an anti-hero novel that's completely from Darth Maul's perspective. It's called Maul Lockdown. It's kill or be killed in the space penitentiary that houses the galaxy's worst criminals, where under gladiatorial combat in an underworld gambling empire reaps the profits of the illicit blood sport. But the newest contender in the savage arena is fighting for more than just survival. His do-or-die mission is to capture the ultimate weapon that will enable his Sith master to conquer the galaxy. but standing in the way are a bloodthirsty prison warden, a cannibal gang, cutthroat crime lord Jabba the Hutt, and an unspeakable alien horror. No one else could brave such a gauntlet of death and live, but no one else is the dreaded dark side disciple known as Darth Maul.
I think that's really interesting that the only two Maul novels that exist out there are prequel prior to him doing it prior to the Phantom Menace, like these two. Is I would hope that maybe now after we get Shadow Lord, is that somebody's out there working on something for that crime time period. I know there's a lot of different comic series that take you there. There's Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, Star Wars Darth Maul Black, White, and Red. There's what is the one? I think there's Maul Death Sentence. There's another one that's about Crimson Dawn. I think is Maul in Crimson Reign? Maybe he is, or is that Kira? I'm not sure. But yeah, that is really interesting that the only two out there. Like maybe this will give us some more once we get this storyline. So this storyline in that they're doing hasn't come from a novel. It may have. We'll see if it touches on some of the comic stuff, but maybe we'll get more canon Maul. Because I'm assuming that this is put out by the mouse. This is going to be canon.
Oh, what, Maul Shadow Lord?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Everything that's in Lucasfilm Animation is as legitimate and official and in the canon.
Well, yes, but they haven't said like stuff like Visions is not.
No. Okay.
But they haven't said this is like that.
You're right. Actually, my mistake. When I think of Lucasfilm Animation, I purely think of the CG stuff. I don't think of the side projects like Visions, but obviously that would fall broadly under Lucasfilm Animation, but it's very much its own universe, not just in terms of storytelling, but in terms of the fact that they outsource every stage of production from performance to pre to post to, established animation studios, whether it's season 2 with the worldwide ones or seasons 1 and 3 with Japan and Korea.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a parallel thing. And then also I mentioned just now the Asajj Ventress aspect in Clone Wars, the micro series by Jenny Tarkovsky, which is hugely of the same kind of theme as Samurai Jack, which is just hyperkinetic, thrilling animation done to like 110 out of 100. But yeah, it's what you mentioned about these two novels being the only, and they're both legends now, which is a shame. Right. But there's no reason why they can't still stand to reason to be in universe. And the other aspect of Darth Maul that is in canon, it's one of the final novels ever written before Disney cleared the table, and that is the novel Darth Plagueis. The original artwork is Palpatine kneeling before a giant specter of Darth Plagueis' face on the front cover, and on the back is Darth Maul jumping in midair with his dual-bladed lightsaber ignited.
So Maul is in Plagueis. I did not know that.
Yeah, I stopped reading Plagueis about a year ago, and I was enjoying it so much, but I just had to read some other things, and unfortunately, there's been a big reorganization of the books, and I can't locate my copy of Plagueis. But what I might do is I might buy the Legends reprint, which is in that new black format.
Yeah.
Where they've got all this wonderful new artwork. And also the pages are now made of recycled paper. So it opens really nicely. There's no risk of like damaging the spine if you suddenly stretch it open.
Right, yeah.
And I'm a big tactile person with books. I don't like ebooks at all. So even though I'm running out of space,
I tried reading comics as ebooks for a while. And I couldn't do it. I tried.
You want the paper?
I do.
Yeah, it makes sense. It definitely makes sense for sure. But shall we continue our Darth Maul conversation for the next show?
Well, I think we probably are going to, because like Maul is getting ready to start coming out. Shadow Lord will be there. I am absolutely sure that we will be talking more about, what happens as it comes out, because we'll get to see. I'm looking over here on the Google, is that yes, Maul appears heavily in Crimson Reign, and his training, as alluded to in Solo, his training of Kira, and we may see that, and that may be a character that gets brought into the animation that we haven't seen yet. There are some other new characters kind of hinted at in the trailers and the teasers and the things. So, I cannot imagine that we will not be talking further about Maul Shadow Lord as it comes out.
Yeah, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how much of Darth Maul's character and the story elements might come from some of those many graphic novels that you mentioned, because it sounds like there's been so many new
Well, that's what I'm
stories.
talking about. Like, look right here at our comment here is analyzing Son of Dathomir would be really cool. Story is canon, fills the blank between season 5 of the Clone Wars and of Rebels. So letting know a little bit more about what's going on with Maul, and that will be in canon after what's going to happen in Shadow Lord, is what happens to him in Son of Dathomir. Is
Okay.
Son of Dathomir picks up after Sidious kills Savage and takes him hostage,
Yeah.
which is before Shadow Lord.
Yeah, and that's also before the Siege of Mandalore, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's between
So
the two, because that
those
was
couple of
annoying.
months.
That's the arc they should have done in season 7 over 2 of the other ones, because it's so weird that for this Maul arc you have to stop and read a comic book to get the bulk of the story before coming back to Siege of Mandalore. It's so jarring. And I thought they should have gone and back and animated that as part of season 7. Because it is a big necessary part of his story. I mean, it's one of the best cliffhangers in this Clone Wars is when Sidious is like, I have plans for you or whatever. It's like, well, what exactly are those plans? Oh, it's not important,
Right, yeah.
So you got to find some obscure comic book for that. It's like, oh, jeez.
Yeah. Do you guys both have that graphic novel?
I do not.
I don't think I
watched the YouTube review, and it was like vintage Star Wars action. Like that would have been a great animated segment.
Yeah, I didn't particularly collect the Dark Horse Star Wars, but it's like one of those things where I'll pick up an issue here or there that I see that so I might have, I think it's a 4-parter. I might have 1, maybe 2.
Oh wow, yeah. I've always been a bit afraid of just getting single issue comics because I love the feel of books and I always felt paper was so transient and ephemeral. And I just know that kid, I probably would have. It probably would have got ruined just being paper. So I like buying the omnibus.
Completely, it would and does, but there's still the joy to that. Okay, I'm going to go on my tangent now. There is the major joy to that, and having the ones from your childhood. I bought the original run of G.I. Joe from like a Quickie Mart. Like I would pick up issue after issue at the gas station. And I still have long boxes full of those over there. And those are the ones, not the pristine copies, because I've gone, and if I've got one that's like destroyed that I had from my childhood, is I'll go back, and when I see a good copy at a shop or whatever, is I'll go ahead and get a duplicate. But when I go and seek signatures, when the cover artist of that is the pristine one, is not the one I get autographed. The one that I get autographed is my childhood copy. And much respect from, like, I think recently I met Bob Hall, which is the cover artist of, I think, G.I. Joe number 4. So it's from like 1983, 4, somewhere in there. And he's just like, this is a well-loved copy. And it's like, I cannot count the number of times that I've read this book. It's like, your signature. Thank you so much. It's like, that's the way to go with that. And graphic novels are cool to do that too. I've got, this one waiting. I was going to go to a Galaxy Con Richmond that's weekend. This is the best of Larry Hama that they have collected in a nice hardback here. But yeah, didn't make that. This is from IDW when the license went to them for a while. But yeah, is find your media and what it is that you want, because and here's the other thing against that. You're reading your digital comics, you can't go get your damn iPad signed.
You could, but you run out of space very quickly.
You could.
Come sign my note on my Samsung tablet or my iPad with a stylus or Apple Pen, and I'll save it forever.
Well, I mean, theoretically you could. I don't know that people would want to do that because that just screams steal it or whatever. But anyway, we digress a lot, as we tend to do. But yeah, get ready for, and coming sooner rather than later is going to be Maul Shadow Lord. It will be out before our next episode, because everybody remember that next Sunday is a 5th Sunday. So no Jedi Archives, no Unifying Force. And then we'll have the Archives guys back on the 1st Sunday of April, and we'll be back on the 2nd, and we'll have 2 episodes or 4 episodes of Maul by then.
The first episode drops in the week starting the 6th of April, I believe, and it's 2 episodes double bill. As Kat mentioned last time, there's a 2 dual episode release every single week. So I believe we'll have just the first 2 by Sunday, the 12th of April, which is the date of our next show.
All right.
And I think it'd be really cool. Maybe we could talk to some of the JA crew, the Jedi archivists in Bryce and John.
Well,
JC
and for those of you that don't know yet, I hope I'm not doing a spoilers, but I'm going to do a spoilers if there is. If people are watching, you deserve it. There will be a Maul after show that the Jedi Archives guys are doing. So they will be deep diving on all of those episodes. I think the timing of when those are going to air is TBA, but that's going to happen. It'll be out there. So go ahead and get ready for that. And yes, we can totally love to do a crossover and collab episode.
Yeah, maybe we could get one or 2 of the guys, or all 3 if they're free. Maybe I don't know how it would work with the graphics, but for our next episode, oh yeah, you probably have the year in review end of year specials where you've got 20 people talking. But I want to just shout out next time, if we do another deep dive on Darth Maul, which I think will be timely, we can look at the portrayals through the Clone Wars and talk about our thoughts with our favorite Clone Wars and Rebels moments, as well as the end of Solo. But I also want to mention that I think Darth Maul's philosophy goes in line with 2 of these writers. And his philosophy changes as he ages, which is a very human thing that happens to all of us. But I think he goes into a very Friedrich Nietzschean mindset after he falls away from the established order of the Sith and tries to become his own master, and also the master of Savage Press, and maybe even the Twilight Jedi, who seems to be a possible reflection of the original sequel trilogy idea from George Lucas, where Darth Maul was a crime lord coming back to control the galaxy with a Darth Talon, a Twi'lek Sith apprentice.
We shall see what it is that we get, and we will talk to you more about it next time. So until then, as always, may the Force be with you.
Yeah, may the Force be with you all.